Welcome back to a continuing special edition of Talk of the Town here on mycountylink.com as we take a look at some of the events that have unfolded here in the past week or so here in Greenville and surrounding environs. Alex Warner back again, along with Gaylen Blosser down here at one end, Mayor Jeff Whitaker and City Safety Services Director Ryan Delk. And I tell you, man, this has been quite the week. We're filming this on a Tuesday, and just a week ago, you were in a council meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
A week ago tonight, we had a regular city council meeting, and we were probably about 40 minutes into it, and the sirens went off. We knew the weather was bad, but we didn't expect the sirens to go off. But we immediately went downstairs into the basement classroom area facility that we have, and we kind of hunkered down. The generator kicked on immediately after the power went off. And just kind of, we were there for about an hour or so, right?
Probably an hour.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, let me ask you this. So the warning sirens, does that fall under your?
So our Greenville dispatchers set those off, so they have different zones. So we set off basically the entire county, Eldora, New Weston, Ithaca, Arcanum, Sales.
Really?
So they have different quadrants, and they basically keep an eye on the weather, and then if it's headed that direction, then they'll set off that siren. And then if it's, the whole area, they have a capability of setting off every siren in the county. But about every village, municipality within Darke County, we have agreements in place that we set them off for them.
Okay.
We test them monthly, and then they own the siren, they take care of all the maintenance.
Okay, got it. So anyhow,
does the sirens, if the electricity goes off, how are they powered during a storm?
Battery backups. They'll have battery backups.
On
Each one?
the pole.
On the poles, yep.
Okay. So you're all huddled up in the city building.
Yeah.
The power goes off, and then you start getting reports, I assume.
Yeah, a few of us would leave the classroom and come up onto the patio of the city building. And to me, it was incredible the number of cars that were still out on the street with the sirens going off. And to me, that's a little concerning. Might be something we might want to work on next time the sirens go off.
Yeah, clear the streets, huh? So anyhow, so you start getting these first reports, the power's off in the city building, you get these reports, and right away, what's the first thing you think of? Either one of you.
So we have some protocols in place when the sirens go off. Number one is we call in all our fire department, and then we send them out to strategic locations throughout the city. That way, if a tornado hits the firehouse, it doesn't take out all of our resources. So those vehicles and those crew are sporadically placed. Same with police officers and cruisers. That way you still have an area. And by the time the sirens go off, we do that. They're out there watching for funnel clouds as well as part of it, reporting it back to the dispatch station. But it all happens so quickly that in this particular case, once it happened, then the reports start coming in of down power lines and trees in the cars and people trapped. And from that point, it's just a constant. We called in resources from that night. New Madison, Liberty Township, Greenville Township came and helped us. The Darke County Sheriff came in and helped us. Once they all kind of assessed if they had any damage, then they came to.
So you have like a mutual aid type of agreement with communities around the county then?
Exactly what it is.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice to have. And so, you talked a little bit, you can have certain frameworks of if this happens, but a contingency plan is just like a fight. You get hit, you have great plans, you get hit in the mouth the first time, then you have to fly on the fly, right?
Do something different, yeah. Fortunately, this thing was over with in a hurry, and it was just a matter of finding a way to get home, all the people that were out on the street. And I'll tell you, it was interesting. I'm going home at probably 10 o'clock at night, tornadoes passed, and the McDonald's drive-thru was just packed. Now, the tornado didn't hit anywhere near that area.
Right.
And to be fair, I would imagine that most of those people didn't even know what happened at that point.
Yeah.
But it was amazing how a tornado hits. You have an area of normalcy that until they find out that the tornado hit and where it hit and everything, they'd haven't an idea.
Yeah.
They know that it was raining and so
Yeah, I was
forth.
gonna say, because we live down, my wife and I live down there at the, one of the new homes in the Brethren Retirement Community, and when we woke up Wednesday morning, it was just like it was Tuesday morning again. I picked up 4 leaves, I mean, not branches, leaves, out of my driveway. We had power the entire time, and so everybody basically south of the tracks. There were a couple insulated or isolated incidents down there with trees down, but for the most part, anything south of the tracks, yeah, no problem, and even further north, so it was that strip in the middle, right?
Yep.
So what's the first thing? You get these reports, what's the very first thing? You got your fire department scattered out, you've scattered your police department, but what's the first thing you're looking for? What's the first concern that comes to mind?
So the first concern, down power lines, it's complete darkness at this point. You have a down power line, people out walking, people in vehicles, like running into a live power line is a major concern.
That's not good.
Tree, obviously this one, we were fortunate and we didn't have a lot of structural damage to properties, like some you see on the news. It was mainly trees and trees in the structures, trees in the vehicles, trees into the streets. But even, we call them widow makers, a tree branch hanging in a tree, like you never know how
Right.
sturdy that tree is. So we tried to assess all of that damage.
Now, this is when it's still dark, or is this early the next morning?
Still dark.
Oh,
So,
geez,
yeah,
that's, oh my.
we went into the wee hours of the morning, and really just responded. We had a couple instances where a tree fell into a car and a person was in it, so a person trapped, and so dispatchers have a very hard task of taking information on the phone and determine if this is, a true emergency threat, like we need to be there now, versus if it's something that we can wait or something we can put barricades. Within 2, maybe 3 hours, we had Centerpoint was here set up, AES was here set up, and they started working on all of their things to get the grid kind of shut down, so all these live wires weren't everywhere. Because that's the biggest
Biggest concern right away.
concern right there.
The biggest blessing of it all, not one injury, not
Yes.
one
Yeah.
squad call, and that's really the first concern besides what Ryan was just talking about, where people could get hurt
Yeah.
and killed even.
Yeah, we were very fortunate in
Yeah.
that manner. And then we were kind of fortunate, I think, in property damage too, because it seemed like there's some houses that did have some major damage, but mainly from trees falling on them, right?
Right.
Right.
It's not like you see some of these pictures out in Oklahoma where houses are just, blown up and roofs are,
Ironically,
places disintegrated.
right before the council meeting started Tuesday evening, I had shown Ryan a video that I had gotten from a friend of a city about the size of a Greenville that was leveled like 2 days prior.
Yeah.
And from a tornado, and we were just amazed at how that happens, and then all of a sudden we're facing the same type of situation, only a lot less.
So with Centerpoint coming in, AES, you had to get not only the police and fire out, but your city crews, the different departments had to be out to put barricades up and just, in general, see what else is out there.
Yeah, so, there's a lot that goes into it. And to back up a little bit, we do with Dark County EMA, tabletop exercises. They pick,
Okay,
I think we were scheduled to have a tornado tabletop a few days
figures.
after that. We've done them before, but, that's how that stuff always goes. But we do them with like train derailments, spills. EMA does a great job of putting together all that planning. Now, once it happens, you really have to do a lot on the fly. For an example, so even things people don't think about, our water department lost power. So you have a time frame where you have to get things back up and running, or the town loses water pressure. So
They have generators
We have
out there?
generators, so
But not enough to keep things.
well, so we
afloat?
have generators at the plant, but then we have well fields that we have to take a portable generator out to keep the wells pumping, and then we do pull off the Greenville Creek. But when it starts storming, it muds up the water, so we like to use the wells at that time. And then we have lift stations for our wastewater side of things. Our wastewater department didn't lose power at all. They have a backup generator. But then out of all our lift stations, I think we're up to about 20 of them throughout the city. Some of them do have backup generators, some of them do not. Some we have a portable when we go around. And I think the 4 that lost power will go 24 hours before we have a problem.
Okay.
But you have to assess all that stuff then and there
Yeah.
as quickly as possible. And I guess the frustrating part Tuesday night, like right after the tornado, was all the traffic. Everybody wants to see it. I get it.
Yeah, the gawkers.
Yeah, the concerned citizen is what I
The
like to call
concerned
Yeah,
citizen,
yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, Gaylen, you got anything to
Well,
throw in here right
yeah, I
now?
was going to ask, fortunately, nobody was injured, but were you in contact with the hospital at all?
Yes, so dispatch is in contact with the hospital, EMS on standby. Like, when it comes to emergency services, like, they have backup plan after backup plan after backup plan to any contingency. So, God forbid, if there was some sort of a mass casualty type situation, they're set up for that and ready to go.
Okay.
The hospital has staff, and then they have different codes they can call in based on the staffing. Pretty early on, like, the reports we were getting were no injuries, so that's not really a concern at that point. It's kind of assessing the damage, and you have to, as you said, you have to get the streets open so the emergency personnel can get to where they need to go. And like, one big hurdle that we ran into Tuesday was because of all the traffic, like, emergency services couldn't even get through. And then every street you tried to turn down to get away from the traffic, then there was a tree or a power line or something like that. So it just really slows down the process of getting through it. Plus, total darkness, because so much of the city did not have power. It just makes it extremely difficult. So.
I read a report where they went back a few days after the tornado, and they said, well, here was the initial touchdown or first initial damage. It was out west of town. I think it was New Madison, Cold Town, and Greenville, Nashville Road. It came in through the cemetery. Is that part of, I know the city and township own the cemetery, am I right?
It's half and half.
Half and
So-
half.
Half and
the
half?
township and
Yeah,
the city.
how does that work then? Are you responsible for cleaning that up, or?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that works, but we did have a bunch of volunteers there Saturday, and
Right.
I got
I
to
know you were out
participate.
there, yeah.
That was a chore. I mean, there was a lot of limbs, and what they wanted to do was clear those limbs out of the way so there's more room for the guys who are cutting down the trees that need to be cut down.
Mm-hmm.
So we were dragging that stuff to the walkways through the cemetery,
Yeah.
and then they pushed that off to the side. So that was about 5 hours worth.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of good help out there.
Did your crews get
Appreciate that.
involved in that then, or?
In the cemetery, so the cemetery is, half of the cemetery is in the township and the other half is in the city.
Okay.
So they have a 3-person board and they rotate. So 1 year, 2 council members and 1 township trustees on the board. The next year, they flip-flop 2 trustees and 1 council person. And then they have a cemetery director, and that person reports, and they have their own maintenance staff. So most of that, they handled on their own. We assisted with some barricades and some minor things
Okay.
like that. And then
Well,
they did a
I
volunteer.
know they had some big damage out there as far as their mature trees. So after it sweeps through the cemetery, all of a sudden it comes basically down Park Drive and Harmon and
Basically.
down through there?
Yep.
My gosh. And the trees in the park, what are we gonna do?
Well, it's gonna be a long process to get, it'll take 75 to 100 years to get the park looking like it was a week ago
Right.
at this time. And it's a sad thing. A lot of people go to the park with their families, have picnics, use our pavilions for parties and get-togethers, and the band shelter. Fortunately, that wasn't damaged much, except for some siding along it.
Right.
But, so I believe that the concerts in the park will take place, I would imagine. But the trees are gonna be missing. We're 700 to 800 people on a Sunday evening between the 4th of July and Labor Day weekends come and enjoy the concerts in the park. We've always gone. And
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see how many people don't come because of the lack of shade
Right.
that we're providing.
The one thing that I was impressed with, and we talked a little bit with Doug Freeze about this, is how the citizens basically banded together and people from outside, there were some outside services came in, But within that first 48-hour period after the tornado hit, I couldn't believe how many branches, limbs, and brush were all piled up
Yeah.
out beside the street. And so it seemed then it was a matter of what do we do with the big trees where we need the pros to come in, correct?
Right. Yep.
It's almost like they instinctively knew to do that, get the small stuff to the street and out of the way for the bigger stuff to be dealt with. But I don't know, Ryan's mentioned it yet or not, I don't believe he has, but we've got help from 4 different municipalities, Sydney, Bradford, Versailles, and New Madison came and all helped us out. Sydney's still around, aren't they?
Yep. Yeah, they weren't here today, but they've been here since last Wednesday or
Wednesday.
Thursday.
Thursday.
So now coming in, some of these different communities come in to help remove those piles of brush and limbs and get that cleaned up. And then is it the city then that contracts out? I assume you're going to contract out some of the professionals to come in and stump removal as well as taking the big trees down, or how does that work?
We do it all in-house with our.
In-house?
Yep.
My God, how many stumps are you guys going to have to work with out there?
It's gonna be a lot.
I mean, I've heard estimates, 75, 80% of the trees were,
I would
were
say
damaged?
125 to 150 trees were damaged, and all large, old
Yeah.
yeah.
trees.
And this is just on city property. We're not counting,
We're not, yeah,
we're
that's
not counting private
personal, that's
property.
right,
Yeah, personal property.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hey, Gaylen, when you were out, because you went out and took a ton of pictures and so forth, what were 2 or 3 of the things that really stood out in your mind as far as that first 3-4 days after the tornado?
The size of the ball of the root in the soil,
Oh.
now you're talking 10, 12, 14 feet tall when the tree's laying over there that massive. And then yesterday, out at the cemetery here in town, where was uncovered the old wooden coffin.
Oh, really?
Yeah. and
That's
so, and the respect that was shown by Joe Van Vickel and the police department out there. And there will be, I understand, a proper burial for that.
Okay.
Greg Zecker was out there as well.
Yeah, Greg Zecker was out
Zecker
there.
Bailey.
So,
Properly handled the situation.
even that, it was, done with dignity. So, I think we should be very proud of our community, our people.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree.
And our leadership. I know sometimes people like to throw stones at people and our leadership, but, when you come to times like this, you see our leaders stand up and do the job. And we need to thank them.
Well, I appreciate that, and I was telling Ryan this morning, yesterday, it really hit me how glad I am that I'm the mayor now, because I get to see all this stuff
That goes
firsthand, first of all the effort made by the quarterback over here, Ryan Delk. and,
Well, so all this has to be handled in-house now as far as what's on the city-owned property and everything. What kind of a timeline are we looking at? Like, what's the next 2 or 3 steps down the road? People will want to know, well, what are they doing next? Or when will we be able to use this? Or when will that be available this fall? Or, any idea?
absolutely.
Because I
Yeah.
know it's on the fly.
Yep. So at this point, it's clean up all the brush, clean up all the trees, clean up everything, all the power, try to get everything cleaned up, and then at the end of the week, our for us,
End of
for the
this week.
city, our insurance adjuster's coming, and then we'll walk around with them and try to, there wasn't a structure in the park that didn't have some sort of damage to it.
Even the fowl house?
Maybe a PFAS house a little bit. It wasn't bad.
Somehow they weathered the
Yeah,
storm.
they
Where did the
weathered the
ducks and
storm.
geese and everything go? I wonder,
Yeah.
They seemed like they were out in full force, though. Anyhow.
Yeah, no, you're good. So, our goal is to make it as normal as the spring and summer as we possibly can. One thing that we want to do is that the pool's a wreck, but we want to try to open the swimming pool. And we've already have a plan in place. We're going to start working out there a little bit more tomorrow. The goal was, we were supposed to open Memorial Day weekend. I don't think that'll happen. But it took out our chlorine shed, it took out our concession. The pool, I don't think has any structural damage to it, but we need to do some evaluating there. So we are just going to kind of piece it back together, fix the fence, and we've already have 20 college, high school students that are planning on jobs out there that we
Oh,
want to
wow.
keep employed for the summer as well.
Yeah.
So that's a major goal. Fortunately, or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, the roundhouse took some pretty bad damage. But our Venture Links, who has done all the concession out there through Dark County DD the last couple of years, they're going to put a stand at South Park to service the splash pad. And then we're going to look into, you know, something we've talked about internally is like the roundhouse is iconic structure in our city park. Like we have to figure out a way to rebuild it or fix it or preserve it. You know, a lot of structures out there like that. There's, you know, the gazebo has been around for many years. Like my wife and I were talking about the other day because her brother asked his wife to marry her inside that gazebo, and there's been a lot of weddings and engagements and prom and, you know, all these things.
There's a lot of sentimental things that go into it.
Absolutely, you know, and I told her, like, I'll consider myself an emotional person, but Wednesday morning when I drove down through the park at 5 a.m. in some daylight, I got a little choked up, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is real, and this is bad.
We're the horseshoe capital of the world. How did our horseshoe courts hold up?
Horseshoe court's not bad. A little fence damage. I think we'll have those up and running no time flat. Another one was the shuffleboard courts. We we have a group of shuffleboarders right now that are very involved in trying to grow the sport of shuffleboard. So
They've got a state tournament coming up here sometime, June 6th or something?
So we worked with them all last fall and through the winter to build some structures for shade, and we were in the process of redoing some of the courts for them so they could hold the state tournament. And I'm not saying they can't hold the state tournament, but it's pretty wrecked.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, it's funny because a lot of people say from out of town, they're calling in and they've seen, you know, online and on Facebook and things like that. And their first concerns are, what happened to the swinging bridge? They want to know, is the band shell okay? The heck happened to the football field? And then they want to know about the shelter houses, you know, kind of in that order. And it's understandable. And you know, unless you actually are here and see the extent of the damage, it just doesn't quite register. The pictures are great, but they don't show the whole overall scheme of things.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. One thing I want to say about the cemetery, you know, there's so many trees that they may not have fallen yet, but they're cracking, and you don't know which way the wind's going to blow next. And I know the superintendent at the cemetery is urging people not to take their evening strolls through the cemetery because it's just too dangerous. You don't know what's going to happen next there. We were out there working and having a little talk during the break time. We were standing underneath the big tall tree, and we saw a crack in it, and we heard the crackling noise, and we decided to just get away from there.
Adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, adjourn the meeting quickly, about as quickly as we did our council meeting last week.
Oh, man. You know, and the other thing, it's going to look entirely different, like you said, with all the trees that have come down and all the stump removal and things of that nature. I know a lot of people maybe have seen pictures of the park back in the 1920s, 25, and I think what we're going to see is something similar to that. There were no mature trees to speak of. And so what do we do? There's been some talk about reforestation or replacing these trees that have come down. Is that just kind of talk right now?
Quickly, I would say there's some efforts underway, and you'll see more about it in the press in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we have a meeting Thursday on replacing the trees. We have kind of a preliminary plan, but you're right, like you want to get forestry involved in something like that, make sure you do it the right way.
Yeah.
Right.
Not just plant a bunch of saplings here and there.
Right.
You got to do this. They know how to do it, so they thrive, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So we're in like what, outside from State Department of Natural Resources kind of thing, or Department of Agriculture? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, I'll tell you what, it's been an interesting week. I know you're ready to take a day or two off, as are you, I'm sure, because you guys have been probably running on adrenaline and coffee and whatever else here the last 7 days.
To be fair, you know, I just have to say that the Safety Service Director, he's quarterbacking the whole show here, and you know, I'm in on it a lot as well, but, and our street superintendent, Matt Myers, he's doing an incredible job, everybody that works for him. All the people that are coming from various sources, volunteers, church groups, all these people that are bringing food to the workers. It's just been an incredible effort. And then those neighbors helping neighbors. It's pretty touching. I mean, that's why I said just a little bit ago, it's an honor to be the mayor, seeing all this happen in your community. And it's touching. And I think with God's help, we'll get through it all and rebuild the city of Greenville and their parks.
Well, I know this is certainly something that nobody anticipated or definitely didn't want to see happen, but the response, like you said, has been tremendous, and you and your crews and everybody really need to be commended, because that's, man, that is a big task that you're handling right now, not only in the immediate future, but we're looking on down the road and everything, because that park area and all those good people out there, we need generations to come to enjoy what we've enjoyed for the last 50-some years, and so
It's an asset that we've always had.
Yep.
Some may not have appreciated it more as much as others, but now everybody seems to appreciate the park and what it was, and hopefully we'll get it back, and it'll just take time. Everybody just needs to be patient from here on until while we clean up and pick up all the sticks that are around the neighborhood and the branches that are laying around. And
I'm trying to remember the songstress. The song was, "Don't it always seem to go, you don't know what you've got till it's gone?" And I'm trying to think who that is. That's back in my time frame. That's 4 years time, babe. That's way 4 years.
I've heard
You remember
it
that, Gaylen? Don't it always seem to go, you don't know what you got till it's gone? I'm trying to think, is it Joni Mitchell or somebody like that? But anyhow, well, hey, thanks so much, guys, for taking time out of
Thank
your
you.
day, because I know
Appreciate
you
it.
just have been swamped, and will continue to be so, and thank the crews here in the city, and thanks to you, and especially thanks to the citizens out there, because they've performed admirably here in a tough situation. So
And hopefully people take what we've said as far as keeping things
Yes.
safe to heart.
yeah, no widowmakers. We don't want any branches dropping anybody's
we
head
don't
out
need
there. Yeah. So anyhow, well, hey, on behalf of Gaylen Blosser, I'd like to thank Mayor Jeff Whitaker and Safety Services Director here in the city of Greenville, Ryan Delk. Thanks for coming up. Nick Schmidt, I'm Alex Warner. Thanks for watching this special edition of Talk of the Town. Hope we brought some information to you, and just keep on strong out there, Greenville, and we'll get through this, and things will look better the next time the sun comes up, right?
That's right.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.